Hello, my name's Jeff Goodwin. Welcome to another watercolour video. We're just going to do a very simple sky and a bit of a country foreground, just some country grass and grasses and a little bit of a field, not much. Some trees and a bit of a gate. So we'll start with the sky. I'm going to wet the paper first. This is 300 GSM watercolour paper. I'm just going to wet it. I'm not going to wet all of it, just in sections across here. Using a fairly big brush to wet this. Oop. Gee, that's annoying. Hair from the brush. It's a cheaper brush, you can tell. Anyway, that's all I've got available to me right now. I'm also going to wet some of this foreground down here as well. Might as well do the whole thing in bits and pieces. I don't want to overly saturate the paper, just enough. Okay, I'm going to do the sky now. I'm going to do it like a cobalt blue. So I'm just going to get some of that colour in now. Might use a new palette as well. Got some colours on an existing palette there ready, but I just want to use some of this palette here. All right, a little bit of cobalt blue. So I'm just sort of watering it down as I mix it. Bit more water there. Really water it down. A little bit of this yellow ochre, just a bit. Going to tilt the paper a little bit, let it run just a bit, not too much. It's having a bit of trouble there, so I'll just give it a bit of a hand. It's all right. Just going to soften the edge there. All right, so maybe a little bit of yellow ochre just up in the top here, just to balance it out a little bit, not too much though. Don't want to overdo it. And maybe just a tiny little bit up in the corner there. Okay, that's the sky. We're going to let that sky dry, do its own thing. Tilting that around a bit just to let the paint flow. Sorry, I have to tilt this away from the camera at this stage. So that's our sky. Let that dry a bit. Okay, we've done, our sky is still drying, but that's okay, I can do some of the foreground here. So I want to get a little bit of this Payne's grey in with this yellow ochre, just a bit, not much. And I want to just sweep down the hillside here. And I also want a bit of a darker, perhaps a burnt sienna, something like that. So I'll get some burnt sienna and we'll see if we can actually add a bit more colour in with that yellow ochre. Just a different sort of gradient which will run down through. It's okay. All right. A bit lighter green there, just in the distance. All right, so we're going to do some trees now in the background. Just a suggestion. I like to leave a little bit of light showing through the trees. A little bit more of this Australian dark leaf green. use a slightly bigger brush now. Use a burnt sienna in here. Rather a burnt umber. Just a hint of these trees in the foreground. One thing with watercolors is that as you're doing the watercolors and they're drying, the watercolors always dry lighter. So you just need to keep an eye out on that. Always put down your watercolors darker than what you perhaps think you will need, a bit darker. And if it's still, if it's still a bit light afterwards, you can always go back over and just sort of fix up bits and pieces to what you like. I like it a lot darker under these trees here. I'm just going to be fixing this up, making these a bit darker in areas. These bushes already, you can see they're drying lighter, so I'm darkening them up in places. All right, I like that texture there. I'm going to leave that there and hopefully it'll dry the way I want. Okay. A bit more dark under these trees here. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to sort of unify this a little bit. A little bit of shadow coming off there. Here we go. Well, we're by no means finished. I'd like to get some yellow ochre in there as well. Ron Ranson, he's a famous watercolour artist, and he says that burnt sienna is the great unifier. That means it brings the picture together. I'd rather use yellow ochre. I think that's the great unifier, but I'm not anywhere near as good as Ron Ranson. So a little bit of yellow ochre. Now we're going to get a little bit of raw umber in here, which I think is needed. Dab that with a tissue. Okay, so that's all right. Got a bit of a mark there up on that sky there, which is a bit annoying, but we can fix that. I'll just dab that right now. Okay, we might even make a bird out of that, but you can barely see it anyway. Well, I'm just going to let that dry for a little while, but before I let it dry, I'm just going to put a side tree on. I think it needs that. Just something on the edge there. And I might use a bit more of this burnt umber. So we'll just leave that like that for now. And we might put a tiny bit of, just a tiny bit of this Australian dark leaf green in the tray. I think I've got enough of that stuff left here in the tray. All right, let's just leave that now. I'll just blend that into the page there, just so it doesn't look like it's just sitting there, stuck there. All right, so we'll just leave that for now, and then we'll come back and we'll do the fence, and we'll fix up some grasses, which we'll put in amongst that as well. So you can see it's quite colourful already. I might be able to tilt this up. Hopefully the paint's going to run, so I'm going to leave that the way it is, and might be able to smooth this paint out before I pause the camera for a bit. I'll just smooth that out a bit more. Yep, so we'll let that sit there for now. We'll come back and then we'll put the fence in and some grasses as well. So back in a sec. I'm going to have a cup of coffee. Okay, so it's still drying. I've darkened up these trees a little bit. I'll show you a trick in a minute. I've just got to let those trees dry a bit more. So I want a little bit of, more of this yellow ochre just in the foreground here, just to lift that a bit there. That's okay, and I just want a little bit of this burnt umber in here as well. Yeah, okay, that's good. We'll leave it like that for a little while. Now let's see if we can give, it might still be a bit wet for this, but we'll try it out just to give an impression of some branches in here. It's just a bit too wet right now, so we'll come back and we'll do that a little bit later on. There we go. It worked out for that one. So we'll just wait a little bit longer and we should be able to put some impressions of just a hint or an impression or a suggestion of a couple of branches in those trees. Okay, we'll try this tool here. Seems to be working. Just a hint of some branches. It'll do. Got to be careful you don't overdo it because you know, you don't want it to look too unnatural. Matter of fact, I don't even think it needs it on the end, so I'll just go over that a bit, just a bit there. All right. Okay, all right. So that's looking okay. We'll put a little bit more of this foreground colour in. Just in here. And we'll put a little bit more here. And we'll just let that dry for a while. Okay, it's still wet in places, as you can see, but I'm going to put a fence in or some gates in the distance. I'm going to use a pretty thin brush, as you can see. These aren't expensive brushes at all, but you can buy very expensive brushes including a rigger brush, which is a brush which is very thin. You can get different lengths of rigger brush out to here, or perhaps a bit longer. The reason they call them rigger brushes is that they're used to paint the rigging on ships and for very fine lines. So that's how they got their name. But that isn't actually a rigger brush, but it is a fine brush, and I'll use that. So I want to get a bit of a dark colour here, so I might just go for a blackish colour. I'm just getting this out of my palette, which is off to the side of the camera. Okay, so here I go. I want this to be fairly fine. I've got to be careful not to sort of touch that wet paint. Just a hint of a gate. Just getting some more colour. There we are, something like that. And of course there might be a bit of shadow from those posts as well. We've got some shadow coming down here from those trees. We've got some shadow coming across here as well from those trees. So maybe just a hint of some shadow there. Maybe a little bit of Payne's grey. We don't want much, just a tiny bit of a shadow. It's a bit thick from what I want, but it's not too bad. Smooth that out a bit. Smooth that out a bit there, a little bit in here. That'll do, that's fine. Just leave it like that, that's okay. And we'll keep this drying here because I want to put some grasses in around here, and I want to put maybe some grasses here on the corner here, maybe a little bit up in here, and we might even put a bird in the sky, and then we'll call it a day. All right, so let's see if we can just, before we turn that, have a bit of a pause, see if we can just put a bit more of a mark in one of these trees. That's good. That's all right. Let's try something else, a bit scratchier. It'll do. You just don't want to overdo it too much, because You don't want it to take away the effect, but that's looking pretty good. That's not looking too bad at all. I might actually, although we've got that effect of scratching away there to get some white trunks in there, I might actually put some darker trunks in here. And I'll do this by getting a black, just a complete black. So it shows up fairly strongly, but I don't want to overdo that either. I just want to give the hint of some trunks going up through the trees. We've got some white ones there, so and maybe something over here. That's good. Yeah, so those trees are looking all right, so we'll just leave them there for now. That's all right. Okay. So we'll just let that dry a bit more now, and then we'll we've done the gate, so we'll just do a little bit of foliage as well. Once that dries a bit more, and then we will put a bird in the sky perhaps and call it a day. Okay, we're going to do some grasses in the foreground and a few other things like that. Yeah, we'll see how we go. Okay. Might use a smaller brush for this one, slightly smaller. Just blend that grass through, the foreground grass through, so it doesn't look like it's just sitting there, you know. Just very slight thin marks here. You don't want to go too heavy. Very thin marks. There we go. So that looks okay there. We just want to put a little bit of grass in the distance as well. So there we go. I'm going to use a thinner brush. And perhaps some grass, just some growth or something like that, just over here. There we go. Just blend that through like that. I want to get something in the foreground if I can. So I'm just going to work with a slightly bigger brush here, and I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but just want something in here. And I'll have to darken that up. And I might put a little bit of burnt umber in with that grass there, just a bit. Yep. And we want a bit more green. This wonderful colour from Art Spectrum called Australian Dark Leaf Green. I'm just darkening this up because I know it's going to dry a lot lighter. That's not too bad. I don't mind that at all. I might just put a tiny few strands of grass coming through on the edge there, just a few strands. All right, so we're going to put a bird in the sky now. And I think we'll do the bird just with black paint. Why not? Just an impression of a bird, you know, something really simple. Alright, so something really, really simple. Perhaps over to the side here. What do you reckon? Out here somewhere? What do you reckon? All right? That'll do. Lonely bird. Okay, as I said, I usually have a masking tape, and the masking tape is a lot better than what I'm using. I ran out of masking tape, so for this video I had to use cellophane, and I don't think the cellophane is going to hold the paint in the border as much, but it doesn't matter. It'll give you an idea. Next time we'll use masking tape. So let's just take the cellophane off and see what happens around the border. Here we go. You actually pull this away from the painting because you don't want it ripping into the painting. All right, so you can see it's leaked a little bit, but it is only cellophane that I'm using. So pull it away from the paper. Yep. And you know what, I can see something I want to do already again in this painting. Sorry about my hand being in the way there. There we go. And the last piece here. It's not too bad actually. The cellophane anyway. Well, not cellophane, but you know, this sort of sticky tape here. You should really be using masking tape. I got away with it though. Got away with it. Just before I show you the finished product up close to the camera, I just want to, where is my, yep, here it is. Just think it needs a little, and this is a trick, you know, you've got to be careful you don't overdo a painting and keep adding and adding and adding to the painting. But I just think perhaps just a little bit of stuff in here. Yep, that's good. And maybe if I can just water this down a bit just to get it to paint to flow a little bit. Perhaps just yeah. Okay, I think that's good enough. Let's wash that brush out. Oh, there's one more thing I've got to do. One more thing I have to do. I might use this dark leaf green once again, just for this final part here. There we go. That's the signature. And there it is. Sky looks pretty good actually. Happy with that. And you can see the sky's lighter down near the horizon, and that's a good idea to do that as well. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll be doing another one very soon for you.